Welcome to episode 200 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. I'm the host, Kim Newlove. I do a general update on my podcast every season, fall, winter, spring, and summer. As I record this, it is mid-February 2023. Therefore, this is my winter 2023 update. Why do I publish a seasonal update? My seasonal updates are an opportunity for you to get to know me better as a person. There are 4 segments in this episode. First, I'll talk about my podcast. Then, in the second part, I'll give you an update on my business, the Pharmacist Voice LLC. The third part is an update on my personal life. I'll mention my husband, the kids, and family stuff. Then I will end with the fourth part, which is my favorite part. It's an update on what I'm listening to, reading, watching, and playing. I realize this may be the first time that you've ever listened to my podcast. So, if you're new to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, welcome. Again, my name is Kim Newlove, and I'm the host. I'm a pharmacist by training, but I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I made a career transition to voice actor and podcast host. As a voice actor, I help clients get their point across in the medical space. Among other things, I provide medical narration to clients in the pharmaceutical, biotech, and continuing medical education industries. I also narrate audiobooks for women pharmacist authors, and I consult with pharmacist authors who are narrating their own audiobooks. Why did I become a voice actor? I was inspired by my nonverbal son who has autism to combine my background as a pharmacist with my speaking voice and launch my business, the Pharmacist Voice, in 2017. My son Craig helped me realize the power of having a voice and using it. What do I typically talk about on this podcast? Well, I have solo shows and I have interview shows. My solo podcast episodes are about some aspect of being a pharmacist, a voice actor, a pharmacist podcaster, or my career transition from pharmacist to voice actor and podcast host. My interview shows feature a variety of people who use their voices to advocate for something, educate in some way, or entertain so that you are inspired to use your voice too. Who typically listens to this podcast? My listeners are typically pharmacists, pharmacy students, pharmacy technicians, pharmacy professors, pharmacist podcasters, and medical narrators. But really, everyone is welcome to listen. Mom and Dad, hi if you are listening. You can find the show notes for this episode on thepharmacistvoice.com. Just click on the podcast tab and search for episode 200. I'm sure I will have a lot of links today, so check that out. Now, let's get started. I'd like to talk about my podcast first. As you can probably tell, it is episode 200. So I am celebrating that it is episode 200 today. Gratitude first. I have 3 thank yous, 3 big thank yous to give out here. Number 1, thank you for listening. Thank you. This show would not be a hit and I wouldn't keep publishing it without you, the listener. So thank you again for listening to my podcast. Number 2, I have to thank all of my guests over the years. Every week, my guests inspire my listeners to use their strengths and their passions to do something meaningful with their voices too. Thank you so much for inspiring my listeners. Third and finally, I have to say thank you to my family for their support, especially my husband, Nathan. Without your understanding that I need this time for myself and my business, I would not be able to do what I do. Thank you. Now, if gratitude is first, then I guess stats are second. So let's go into the stats for just a minute because I realize that many of my listeners are pharmacists and pharmacy people, and we love data. Here we go. This is episode 200. 104 shows have been solo shows, including this one. 96 have been interview shows. This podcast has been in production since December 2019. That's just over 3 years. Total downloads are right around the 30,000 mark, and 56 countries have tuned in the last 90 days. The top 4 countries are USA, UAE, Canada, and Brazil, in that order. Thank you. Thank you all for listening. That does it for the stats. Let's move on to talking about what's next on the podcast. I am planning to continue to publish one episode a week, one episode every Friday. There will be a few series here and there where there will be more than one episode per week, but in general, I will continue to have solo shows and interviews, usually alternating them, and I will publish every Friday. Now, probably the most exciting thing, I guess, coming up on the horizon is my Pharmacist authors series that is coming up in June. I have 12 pharmacist authors lined up to share what their book is about, why they wrote it, and what authority they have on the topic, their target audience, what problem the book solves, and what they want readers to get from reading the book, what they want readers to do with the information, and where my audience can buy the book. In this series, I'll also include an interview with my friend Julie from Whole Story Studio, which you can find at wholestorystudio.com. Julie and I work together on a few audiobooks. I narrate the books, she gets them ready for retail. She's my audio engineer, and our books pass specs thanks to Julie. Our books can be found on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. We publish through ACX. Julie has worked on hundreds of books, and she really knows what she's doing. She works for major publishers as well as independent authors, which is who I narrate for. Now, why would I share this interview with Julie? It is because if you are a pharmacist author looking to narrate your audiobook, Julie could help you too. Join me for the Pharmacist Authors series in June and also to hear from Julie. That's enough about the podcast. Let's move on. I'd like to talk next about what's going on with my business, The Pharmacist Voice. I'm going to kick this part off with something that has kind of nothing to do with voiceover jobs. Here's the scoop. I had an opportunity this year to take on a paid role outside my job as a medical narrator and podcast host. It has consumed just about all of my free time, I tell you, and I will talk more about it in my spring update. Until I get my first paycheck, I don't feel right talking about this. So let's move on to being a voice actor. As a voice actor, I've been laying low and not working on too many voiceover projects for two reasons. Number one, because of the aforementioned role outside my business that I have coming up here. And number two, I want to keep my schedule open until my younger son Derek leaves for college in 6 months this August. All right, if you are a pharmacist and you remember back to the days of being 18 and leaving for college, were things ever the same when you went back home? Probably not. And that's what I'm anticipating. That's what I fear when my little boy goes off to college. So I really want to spend the time with him now, be there for him, cook for him so that he'll come back and see me and let me cook for him in the future. Anyways, I'm spending a lot of time with family until he leaves in August. Then I'm going to be about as busy as I ever have been with voiceover projects. All right. As far as voiceover projects, I am still serving existing clients and past clients during this busy time. It's not like I'm leaving anybody high and dry. So if you are listening to this and I have done work for you, please call me. I will help you. What are some examples of my past jobs? Here are just a few examples. I'm not going to give a full list. All right, one of the things that I do is I moderate the Clinical Olympics at various medical conferences around the United States for a continuing medical education company. I fly to big cities and I help out at conferences. I love the job. I will continue to do that, even during this busy time. I also coach clients privately on podcasting and narrating their audiobooks. I also have an audiobook project coming up this year, probably won't go into production until August. Other than actually working, I do have to do the business of the business here. I have to keep up my license and keep the business going. So let's just talk real super briefly about conferences. Keeping up with CE and networking are two of my professional goals, always two of my professional goals. Therefore, I will attend 2 conferences this spring. Which 2 conferences will I attend? The first one on my list here is the Ohio Pharmacists Association Annual Conference in Columbus, Ohio. That is April 14th through 16th, 2023. If you're an Ohio pharmacist, please come up and say hi to me. I would love to meet you. And my second conference that I'll be going to this spring is the Metapreneurs Summit in Kansas City, Missouri, June 2nd through 4th, 2023. The only thing I have left to do to prepare for that is buy a plane ticket. I live in Northwest Ohio. Missouri's not really drivable. That would be a really long trip for me, so I'm going to go ahead and fly to that one. Links to both of those conferences are in the show notes. I look forward to earning that CE in Columbus at OPA, the Ohio Pharmacists Association annual conference, and of course, I look forward to gaining more business skills and networking at the Metapreneurs Summit. If you've never heard of Metapreneurs, it is great for healthcare entrepreneurs. Iron sharpens iron. If you want to be among some brilliant minds in healthcare entrepreneurship, come to Metapreneurs in Kansas City this June. Links in the show notes. Next, let's move on to the third part of this episode. It is an update on my family. I always like to say just a little something about each member of my family in this part of my seasonal updates. Let's start with Nathan. I've got two big things to talk about with Nathan. The first thing is, it's the big news. Nathan is starting a new job next week, Monday, February 20th. Nathan's last day at PTI Operations in Swanton, Ohio was Thursday, February 16th, yesterday. And it was kind of sad because he loved it there. He did a great job. He loved his team. But he's going back to First Solar on Monday, February 20th. There is a lot that I could say about this, but I'll keep this brief. Back in May 1st of 2020, right as the pandemic was heating up, they had a reduction in force, and Nathan lost his job at First Solar after 12 and a half years. He went on to work as an operations manager at Amazon. Then PTI Operations invited him to be the director of operations there. My husband is a mechanical engineer, and he's got a background in manufacturing, so he's a manufacturing leader, you could say. And then he got all this operations experience. And I believe that First Solar recognized that. They had a role that they needed to fill. He was right for it, and that is why he's going back. It was the right role, the right time, my husband's right background, and he's going back. It's going to be kind of weird after 3 years because I don't know that we both really believed this would ever happen. But updates on this will be out in the spring update in May of 2023. I'll keep you posted. The second and last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to Nathan is we are celebrating 30 years together. 30 years. It's not our wedding anniversary. It's not our dating anniversary. It's what we call our relationship anniversary. February 14th, 1993 is the day that we met. We met on Valentine's Day, 1993. We are 3 years apart. My husband is 3 years older than I am. I was 14, he was 17. I was friends with a young man named Jonathan. It was actually my cousin Kevin's friend, and of course I absorbed him as my friend, so Jonathan was my friend. And then David was Jonathan's older brother and also Nathan's age. We were at a party at David and Jonathan's house, and David and Jonathan's father is a pastor. Pastor Kopenhofer's his name. And we met at Pastor Kopenhofer's house, and pastors are famous for really getting youth and being really good at getting youth together for some good, clean fun. So we're at this pastor's house with his two sons, having some good, clean fun with about, I don't know, there might have been 20 or 30 kids there. There were a lot. We're eating junk food, we're playing games, we're watching movies, including Monty Python's The Holy Grail. It was so fun. And I meet Nathan Newlove, and I had heard so much about him through circles of friends, Jonathan and talking to his brother David. And anyways, ended up meeting this Nathan person, and I would not let him leave this party until he asked me out. And we've been together ever since. That is the story. Oh, and as the kicker, that pastor married us 8 years later in 2001. That's right. Happy endings do happen. I love that story, and it never gets old. Here's to 30 years of us, Nathan. You know I love you. All right, let's move on. That's a tough act to follow, I tell you. But next, here's an update on our son, Craig. Craig is a teenager for just a few more days. Craig turns 20 next week on February 21st. What should you know about Craig? Craig is still in high school and he's working on a lot of skills, his work skills, his language skills. By the way, he's my son with autism who cannot read, write, or speak. Craig's also working on behavior and coping skills, functional math, and much, much more. I would say that when Craig graduates, just to give you an idea of what he likes to do, his dream job would involve riding around in a truck or a car and delivering packages. Craig loves to ride around. A minute ago, I mentioned that Craig is working on his language skills. Well, I'm going to steal the show for a second here and say that I am working on my language skills as well. I am taking Dr. Ashley Walker's American Sign Language 101 course, and I love it. We are learning vocabulary, we're practicing it during class and in the labs on the weekend, and we're building on the vocabulary every single week. It is amazing. Highly recommend. Now, how do you think that my learning sign language might help my son, Craig? Well, it's another way for me to communicate with him and maybe for him to communicate with me. Communication is his biggest challenge. We have to try new things. We never know what's going to work. So I'm going to keep going with this class, and I must say, on a personal level, I am really enjoying it. But again, I think it will help Craig. One last thing about Craig here. Craig works really hard, and I want to take a moment to recognize that. Craig works hard, and we love him dearly. We're always trying to help him achieve his full potential. And we're also trying to get him ready for his transition from high school to adult services, which is happening in just about 2 years. Raising a young man with challenges is not easy for us, but we do the best we can, and so does he. In April, for Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, I plan to do an update on Craig just so you understand a little bit more about why I started my business, really, because, watching somebody struggle to communicate for years really does affect a person. It has affected me. But also, there's a lot of good about Craig. It's just we focus on the challenges because trying to help somebody achieve their full potential involves filling the gaps. So that's all I'm going to say. Let's move on to Derek. Derek, on the other hand, is our typically developing 17-year-old senior in high school. He goes to the same school that Craig goes to. So Craig and Derek are in the same school for just one last year. They are 2 years apart chronologically. Okay, so Derek is 17, Craig is 19, but in school, academically, they're basically in the same year. Derek is considered a senior. Craig is considered a super senior. So he should have graduated, but he's still on campus. I'm a proud mama bear. I love both my boys, and I kind of can't believe that it's their last year in the same building. Next year, Derek will be headed to college, next academic year anyways. Derek will be going to college in August. He applied to 2 universities. I believe that he did this in October of 2022. He applied to the University of Toledo in Toledo, Ohio, which is where my husband and I went to college. And he also applied to the University of Cincinnati in Cincinnati, Ohio. Both universities, he applied to the engineering programs. He got accepted to both, but he confirmed his intent to attend Cincinnati. So now we're working our way through financial aid, housing, meal plans, future freshman visits, and all the like. If you are a parent of a college student or you've ever gone through this, you know what I'm talking about. It is a lot to deal with. But he is excited about college. We raised him right, and he is ready. He is so independent. We're so proud of him. Now, other than getting ready for college, Derek's got to finish school, right? He's got to finish high school. Let's get him through. Graduation day is May 21st, and I believe we're going to have his graduation party in June. Derek's looking forward to track season and all the shenanigans that go along with being a senior in the spring, like prom, final exams, getting all that stuff done with, and starting a job. Derek has been an umpire for, I want to say, 5 years now. and he went through all these certifications and advancements in his skills. So now he can actually umpire baseball games for JV and varsity baseball. So he's actually umpiring games for his peers at this point, which is amazing. I'm so proud of him. He has ambitions to become a professional umpire, but I don't know where things will take him. So we will see how he does as an engineering student at the University of Cincinnati, and we'll also see what he does with this ambition to become a professional umpire. Stay tuned. I'll let you know what happens in future updates. Although I could talk about my kids all day, that concludes the family update. I'm going to stop right there and then move on to the fourth and final part of this episode, which is an update on what I'm listening to, reading, watching, and playing. I love this part. Let's dive in. What am I listening to? This might come as a surprise. I know I've got listeners around the world, 56 countries alone in the last 90 days, but here goes. I am listening to the Bible, the NIV version on audiobook. It is 75 hours long. You heard me right, 75 hours. I'm only 10 hours through. I just finished the book of Numbers. I'm starting Deuteronomy next. I have never gotten this far. I've always wanted to read the Bible cover to cover, but I found that I just couldn't sit and read it because I just have a lot of things to do. I don't have time to sit and read, but I care about doing this. I care about reading the Bible cover to cover once in my life. I have estimated that I have 15 to 20 hours to just listen to content as I do housework throughout the week. 15 to 20 hours per week available. I know that sounds like a lot, and I typically spend it listening to audiobooks and podcasts and watching YouTube stuff while I fold laundry or do dishes or something. I make use of my time, but right now I have put the Bible into this rotation. So there you go. I'm listening to the audiobook. What else am I listening to? I am also re-listening to The Power of Zero by David McKnight. The Power of Zero is about financial stuff, and it's less than 4 hours long. It's really not too long. Now, why am I re-listening to this one? It's to prepare for a meeting. My husband and I have, for years now, met with our financial advisor annually. Our next appointment with him is next week, so I'm re-listening to this tiny little audiobook and trying to prepare for this meeting. We are in our mid-40s. I am 44, almost 45. My husband is 47, almost 48. And retirement is slowly approaching here. And it'll be here before I know it. If I don't pay attention to it, I'm going to have no money. So we are paying attention to retirement. We revisit our retirement strategy with our financial advisor at least once a year. I am not a financial advisor, but I would recommend that you do the same. Come up with a plan early, revisit it often. Great plan. Come up with a plan early, revisit it often. Now, saving for retirement it's kind of a nebulous topic, right? But to me, it is one giant math problem, and we are constantly trying to figure out how to not lose money in retirement. How can we lose as little money to taxes in retirement as possible? That is the math problem. So the Power of Zero is all about retiring in the 0% tax bracket. My husband and I, we love to work together on a problem, and I must say that if you look at this the right way, retiring in the 0% tax bracket is the ultimate math problem. Can we solve this problem together, this ultimate math problem? I don't know. Stay tuned. Life is complicated, and the variables in our financial plan keep changing. So it's good to revisit our plan and also revisit any books or materials that might inspire us to do the tax-related math that we need to do in order to prepare us for retirement and our discussions with our financial advisor. Real quick, I want to thank a friend. I got to give a shout out to my friend Jason Holliday for recommending The Power of Zero. Jason is a financial advisor with Modern Woodmen. Modern Woodmen, if you've never heard of that, go ahead and look it up. I'll put a link to Jason in the show notes just in case you're looking for a financial advisor. Jason is not my financial advisor, but I am glad that he put The Power of Zero in my hands last year. It was a great read. Highly recommend, and I will put a link to The Power of Zero in my show notes today. I'm listening to other audiobooks and podcasts and things, but I'm going to stop right there on the topic of what I'm listening to because I want to move on to what I am reading. There are several things that I'm reading. I've always got a book or two going on here, but to go along with the Bible on audiobook, I am reading McGray R. De Vega's The Bible Year, A Journey Through Scripture in 365 Days. One more time, the author is McGray R. De Vega, and the title is The Bible Year, A Journey Through Scripture in 365 Days. I'll put a link to that one in the show notes as well. Now, when one is trying to read the Bible in a year, it is best to have a study guide to kind of keep you on pace. FYI, that book is my study guide. I usually mention what I'm reading to my son as well. So here's an update on Craig and what we're reading. We usually find a series to read, and we had found a series called I Survived. I survived the Revolutionary War. I survived all kinds of things, hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever. After 2 books, we had to stop. He did not really like them, and that's okay. I'm glad that he shared with me that he didn't like it. He would walk away or ask for other things. He has his cues. He may be nonverbal, but he has a communication device, and he would tell me, go, like he wanted to go out for a drive or something. He didn't want to read. Now we're on the hunt for a good young adult series that he might like, something that he won't walk away from. If you have any suggestions, please message me through my contact page on my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. Just click on the contact tab, send me a message. I'm interested. What do you think would be a good series for us? In the meantime, we read a lot of children's books, okay? During the Thanksgiving and Christmas season, we were reading oldies but goodies like Over the River and Through the Woods, just about anything with Santa on the cover or in the title. And now we're reading some of his favorite children's books, and that's good enough for us. The Very Hungry Caterpillar and like some really young books. He still likes them, and we enjoy reading them together. That's good enough until we figure something else out. Now, moving on, what am I watching right now? Well, to go along with the Bible theme, during adult Sunday school at my church, we are watching the Bible Project videos on YouTube. The Bible Project is what it's called. It's an animated comic book version of the Bible, and I like it. I put a link to the Bible Project in the show notes so you can check it out. It goes along with my theme of reading the Bible this year. What else am I watching? My husband and I have been working our way through Seinfeld for quite a while now. We love to laugh, and Seinfeld, of course, is funny, so we are continuing with that. I believe we're actually on the 9th and final season, so we'll have to find something else to watch once that's done. With my family, I am watching the most recent season of The Amazing Race. We love that show. I can't say that I've watched every season, but I have watched quite a few, and I like that show. All right, we haven't seen a movie in a theater for quite a while, but my husband and I finally found a movie that we want to both see. We might actually go to the theater for this, I'm not sure, but the title is Cocaine Bear. Yes, Cocaine Bear. It is a real movie, and it looks funny. It is a dark comedy, and I saw the trailer online. When I saw the trailer online, I thought it was a joke. Then I realized it was real. It is, FYI, it is definitely rated R, and it is not safe for children to watch this trailer. So keep that in mind. As a pharmacist, I am morbidly curious about this dark comedy, and I just have to watch it. One last thing I'll share with you that I'm watching is a YouTube channel. It is called Mama Dr. Jones. Mama Dr. Jones. I found this YouTube channel by accident when I was checking my Facebook feed. Something popped up, and here it was, Mama Dr. Jones. What is Mama Dr. Jones, you're wondering? Mama Dr. Jones is a board-certified OBGYN with 4 kids of her own. Her channel is both educational and funny. Now, if you are a pharmacist mom, you will love this channel. When I accidentally discovered her YouTube channel via Facebook, it was a clip, like a video clip of her reviewing an episode of TLC's I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant. First of all, I live under a rock, and I didn't even know that that was a TV show. Second, Mama Dr. Jones's commentary on the episodes of I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant are edutainment at its finest. She points out myths and misconceptions about women's health. She shares best practices in medicine and women's health, and she points out unrealistic story recreations, and so much more. I love her. I wouldn't say that I have binged her episodes, but when I'm doing dishes and I want something on, I'm listening to her and the time flies by. I'll have a link to Mama Dr. Jones in the show notes for you. You gotta check out her channel. Do it today. You will not be disappointed. And if you are raising teenagers, I must say, I have shared some of the sex ed stuff that Mama Dr. Jones talks about with my own son because I would rather he not learn about sex stuff from TikTok and YouTube and other places. There is a ton of medical misinformation out there, sex ed misinformation out there. And if we don't talk about it with our children, then they're going to learn it from the internet. So please look at Mama Dr. Jones's YouTube channel. It is amazing. She brings up topics that we need to know about when we're educating our own children. You can tell your children what you want, but she kind of warns you about what is out there if you do not talk to them. They're going to learn it from TikTok and YouTube and wherever else. So be warned. Mama Dr. Jones will do you a favor. If you're with me on this topic, check out Mama Dr. Jones today. All right, moving on. Last topic, what am I playing? Over Christmas break, we had a lot of fun. My husband and I were able to play board games with our son, Derek. Craig, unfortunately, does not understand board games with rules, but he observes. Now, some of the games that we played were Euphoria and Settlers of Catan, the original. But we also played euchre in a tournament. Have you ever heard of euchre? Euchre is a card game, very popular in the Midwest. We live in Ohio. It's popular here. This particular tournament happened to be a fundraiser. It was a fundraiser for the Golden Retriever Rescue Resource. That is a nonprofit organization located in Northwest Ohio. It is a worthy cause. They had this tournament as a fundraiser, like I said, and we even brought Derek, and Derek won third place in the tournament. We're so proud. Derek's been playing euchre since he was 13, so for over 4 years he's been playing this. And teenagers like to take risks. Derek took some risks in this tournament and won a lot of hands. And like I said, he got third place. I think he won a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. What a great prize for a teenager. He was so proud and he was happy. One last thing that we played was the lottery. When Mega Millions got up near $1 billion here in Ohio, we bought 4 tickets, one for each member of our family. We didn't win, of course, but it was fun. Let's wrap this episode up, shall we? What a variety of topics. This has been fun. Today, I celebrated my 200th podcast episode. I gave you an update on my podcast and my business. I shared a little family news. And I wrapped things up with an update on what I've been listening to, reading, watching, and playing. Thank you for listening to episode 200 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes. In the show notes today, you will find links to Whole Story Studio, the Ohio Pharmacists Association, Metapreneurs, The Power of Zero, the audiobook version of the Bible that I'm listening to, the study guide that I'm using, the Bible Project on YouTube, a link to Mama Dr. Jones's YouTube channel, and the trailer for Cocaine Bear. What a weird combination of links, I know, but they're all on the website if you are interested. Thepharmacistvoice.com, click on the podcast tab and search for episode 200. If you know someone who would like this episode, share it with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. I'll be back next Friday with an interview with Dr. Dave Kaiser. He is a pharmacogenomics educator, consultant, and author. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next week.